The starship descended through the opalescent clouds of Crizin, its sleek hull reflecting the tumultuous colors of the alien atmosphere. Dr. Eli Bennett peered out of the viewport, his heart thrumming with the anticipation of the unknown. As the ship stabilized just above the landing platform, he caught his first glimpse of the Zal, a tall figure, slender and ethereal, waiting patiently. Eli grabbed his bag and headed towards the exit ramp, his footsteps echoing in the nearly empty corridor. His colleague, Dr. Jonas Hart, joined him, adjusting his glasses with a nervous twitch. "Ready to meet our hosts, Eli?" Jonas asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension. "As I'll ever be," Eli responded, offering a reassuring smile. The ramp lowered with a gentle hiss, revealing the alien landscape, a mix of jagged rocks and lush, bizarrely colored foliage under a sky lit by two distant suns. The Zal who awaited them was called Lyra. Her skin shimmered like opal, and her large, luminous eyes studied them with an intensity that felt almost palpable. "Welcome to Crizin, Dr. Bennett, Dr. Hart," Lyra said, her voice melodic yet resonant. "I am Lyra, assigned to assist you during your stay." Eli extended his hand, a gesture he suddenly realized might not be customary. Lyra looked at it curiously before mimicking the action, her hand cool and surprisingly firm. "We're grateful for your hospitality," Eli replied. "We hope our research here will be beneficial for all parties." Jonas nodded, adding, "The technology and culture of the Zal are highly admired. We are eager to learn from you." Lyra smiled gently, turning to lead them away from the landing pad. "I will take you to your quarters. You must be weary from your journey. Tomorrow, I will show you the ruins that you are here to study." As they walked, Eli observed the architecture of the Zal, structures that seemed to grow out of the ground itself, organically shaped and perfectly integrated into the natural environment. "Your buildings are amazing," Eli remarked. "They look like they've been crafted by the landscape." Lyra glanced back at him, her eyes sparkling. "Our architects work closely with the planet. It's a partnership between our people and Crizin." They arrived at a complex of buildings that mirrored the flowing forms of the surrounding nature. Inside, the atmosphere was serene, with walls that emitted a soft, natural light. "This will be your home for the duration of your mission," Lyra explained as she showed them to their rooms. "I hope you find the accommodations comfortable." Jonas looked around, clearly impressed. "It's more than comfortable. It's unlike anything we've seen." Eli's room was spacious, with a large window offering a view of a tranquil garden. After Lyra left them to settle in, Eli unpacked a few essentials, his mind racing with the possibilities of the coming days. Later, at a communal meal, Eli and Jonas met more of their Zal hosts. The conversation flowed easily, with the Zal keen to learn about human culture as well. "How do you find our planet so far?" one of the Zal, named Thren, inquired. "It's beautiful," Eli said honestly, "and everyone's been incredibly welcoming." "As we hope to be," Thren replied with a nod. "It is our way to ensure all guests feel part of Crizin while they are here." Eli felt a profound sense of curiosity stir within him. The initial encounters with the Zal and their world had opened a door to a new realm of understanding. As he lay in bed later that night, the alien stars visible through his window, Eli felt the weight of the journey ahead. He was far from home, yet there was a light in this alien night, a light he was just beginning to comprehend. Chapter 2. The Forbidden Zones. Eli woke to the gentle light of Crizin's twin suns streaming through his window. The planet's unique dawn brought a spectrum of colors he had never seen on Earth. After a quick breakfast, he met Lyra and Jonas outside, where they prepared for their first expedition to the ruins. Lyra led them through a dense forest, the path winding beneath towering trees with luminescent leaves. The air was thick with sweet, spicy scents, and the sounds of unseen creatures echoed softly in the distance. These ruins we are visiting today are very ancient, predating what we understand as our current civilization, Lyra explained as they walked. They are protected under our laws due to their cultural significance. Jonas, always the historian, hung on every word. And are there many researchers who study these sites? Only a few, Lyra replied. Our government restricts access to preserve their integrity. But with the right guidance, there's much that can be learned. As they approached the ruins, the forest canopy opened up to reveal a sprawling complex of stone structures, partially reclaimed by the vibrant Crisan flora. Eli was mesmerized by the sight. Massive arches and spires that seemed to defy the laws of physics and time. These structures are believed to be over 10,000 years old, Lyra said as they entered through a large archway. The ground was paved with smooth stones that emitted a faint, pulsating glow. Eli knelt to examine the glowing stones. These emit light. Are they a form of bioluminescent material? It's believed they were engineered to absorb and store sunlight, Lyra explained, watching him curiously. They then release it slowly. Our ancestors were advanced in ways we still don't fully understand. Jonas, notebook in hand, scribbled down notes. This could revolutionize our understanding of energy storage back home. They spent hours exploring the ruins, Lyra pointing out carvings and artifacts that depicted the ancient Zal's daily life and cosmology. Eli was particularly drawn to a series of murals that showed figures reaching towards the sky. What were they reaching for? Eli pondered aloud, tracing the lines of the mural with his fingers. We believe they were a spacefaring culture, possibly reaching out to other civilizations or even other dimensions, Lyra said. There are theories that they had contact with other species, but no definitive proof has ever been found. Jonas looked over from another mural. So much of this is reminiscent of human myths, reaching out to the gods, to the stars. It's fascinating to see such parallels. As the day wore on, they took a break near a small stream, the water clear and tinged with a slight blue glow. Lyra handed out some local fruit, which tasted surprisingly like peaches. This is a good place to discuss what you hope to achieve here, Lyra said as they ate. Understanding will help me guide you better. Eli exchanged a glance with Jonas. We're not just here to study your past. We want to understand the Zal as you are now, how your history shapes your present. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Many outsiders are curious about our ruins, but few ask about our present. I appreciate that. As the suns began to set, casting long shadows over the ruins, Eli felt a profound connection to this mysterious planet. The history was palpable, enveloping them in an almost sacred silence as they made their way back to the settlement. Back at his quarters, Eli jotted down his own notes and thoughts about the day's discoveries. The connection between the ancient and modern Zal fascinated him, and he was eager to learn how these threads intertwined through their history into the fabric of their current society. As he set down his pen, he felt a deep sense of anticipation for the next day, knowing each moment on Crisan peeled back layers of mystery centuries in the making. Chapter 3. The Bonding. After several days of intensive research, Eli and Jonas found themselves more immersed in the culture and mysteries of Crisan than they had ever anticipated. Their evenings were often spent with Lyra and other Zal, discussing the findings of the day over communal meals. On one such evening, as the twin suns of Crisan dipped below the horizon, casting a soft violet hue across the sky, Eli and Jonas sat with Lyra and a new member of the Zal research team, Threx, who specialized in ancient technologies. Threx has made some intriguing discoveries about the communication devices used by the ancient Zal, Lyra introduced as they gathered around a low stone table laden with various local dishes. Threx, a tall figure with a thoughtful expression, nodded. Yes, I believe these devices were not only for communication across distances, but also dimensions. It's speculative, but the evidence is compelling. Eli leaned forward, intrigued. Dimensions? As in alternative realities? Precisely, Threx replied, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Our ancestors had a conception of reality that included layers beyond our own. It's not just space they reached across, but the very fabric of reality itself. Jonas, scribbling notes, looked up. That's revolutionary. If we could understand even a fraction of that technology, it could alter our perception of the universe, Eli finished, his mind racing with possibilities. As the discussion deepened, Lyra watched Eli closely, noticing his genuine passion and respect for Zal culture. When the meal ended, she suggested a walk through the nearby luminous gardens, an offer Eli accepted eagerly. The gardens were breathtaking at night, with bioluminescent plants casting a gentle glow on the paths. Eli and Lyra strolled in comfortable silence initially, each absorbed in the serene beauty of the surroundings. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice soft but clear. "You have a deep appreciation for our world, Eli. It's more than academic curiosity, isn't it?" Eli looked at her, the ambient light reflecting in his eyes. "It is. This place. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced. And your people's history, the connection to something greater. It's profound." Lyra stopped walking, turning to face him fully. "And what of the people, Eli? What do you feel about them?" There was a vulnerability in her question that caught Eli off guard. He took a moment before answering, choosing his words carefully. "I've learned so much from you all. There's a wisdom here, a peace that I've never known. It's compelling, Lyra." Lyra's expression softened. "And here, among the stars of Crizum, do you feel you might find a guiding light for your own life?" Eli's heart skipped a beat at her words. "Yes, I think I might," he admitted, and then, encouraged by her attentive presence, he took a step closer. "Lyra, being here with you, it's opened my eyes in ways I couldn't have imagined." She met his gaze, her own eyes luminous and intense. "And you have illuminated the depths of our alien night, Eli. Perhaps, together, we might discover more than just ancient secrets." Encouraged by her words, Eli reached out tentatively, brushing his hand against hers. The contact was electric, charged with the potential of uncharted connection. Lyra responded by closing the gap, her hand firmly grasping his. "Then let us explore together, Eli. There is much to learn, and perhaps much to feel." Under the radiant canopy of Crizum's night sky, Eli felt a bond forming that was as deep and vast as the universe itself. As they resumed walking, hand in hand, the possibilities of what lay ahead seemed as endless as the stars above them. Chapter 4. The Revelation. Eli and Jonas woke early to prepare for another day of exploration, their quarters now feeling oddly familiar in the alien world. The settlement was alive with soft, harmonic sounds as the Zal greeted another day. Lyra met them outside, her expression calm but her eyes carrying a quiet intensity. "Today, we'll delve into a section of the ruins we've only recently begun to understand," she said, gesturing for them to follow. "It may answer some of your questions about the Zal's connection to the past." Jonas adjusted his pack, clearly eager. "What sort of section? More murals or artifacts?" "Both," Lyra replied, her tone cryptic. "And perhaps something more." The trio walked briskly to the outskirts of the ruins, where they met Threx, who had been working through the night. His excitement was barely contained as he greeted them. "We've uncovered a chamber beneath the main structure," Threx explained. "It's unlike anything we've encountered before. It seems to resonate when we're nearby." "Resonate?" Eli asked, intrigued. Threx nodded. "Not physically, but emotionally. It's difficult to explain. You'll have to feel it for yourself. The group descended into the chamber through a newly revealed opening, the air growing cooler as they moved deeper underground. The walls glimmered faintly, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns that pulsed softly, as if alive. Jonas stopped abruptly, staring at the walls. This is incredible. The craftsmanship, the precision. This couldn't have been done with conventional tools. Lyra touched one of the glowing symbols, her expression thoughtful. Our ancestors called this place the Hall of Mirrors. They believed it reflected not just physical images, but the truths within a person's soul. Eli stepped closer, running his hand along the smooth surface. A warmth spread through him, not from the stone itself, but from within. He turned to Lyra. "How does it work?" "That remains a mystery," Lyra admitted. "But those who spend time here often leave. Changed." Jonas laughed nervously. "Changed how?" "That sounds ominous." "Not in a harmful way," Lyra assured him. "It's more of an awakening, a deep understanding of oneself and others." As they ventured further into the chamber, the air grew thick with an unexplainable energy. Eli felt his thoughts slow, his focus sharpening on every detail around him. When they reached the heart of the chamber, they found a central structure, an intricate pedestal surrounded by glowing symbols. "What is this?" Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "We believe it was a device used for communication, not just with each other, but with something greater," Threx said, his voice reverent. Eli exchanged a look with Jonas. "Are you saying this was meant to connect minds?" Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand on the pedestal. "Perhaps. It's said that those who touch it together can share thoughts, feelings, truths they might not even admit to themselves." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "You're saying this thing reads minds?" "Not reads," Lyra corrected. "It amplifies what's already there, allowing others to feel it as if it were their own." Eli stared at the pedestal, his curiosity outweighing his caution. "Can we try it?" Lyra hesitated. "It can be overwhelming for those unprepared." "I'm willing," Eli said firmly, looking to Jonas. "This could be the key to understanding not just the Zal, but ourselves." Jonas looked less certain. "I'll observe for now. You go ahead." Eli nodded and stepped closer. Lyra extended her hand, and after a moment's pause, Eli placed his hand beside hers on the pedestal. A surge of warmth and light enveloped him, not from the room, but from within his own mind. He felt Lyra's presence immediately, her thoughts, her emotions, her memories. They weren't intrusive, but welcoming, as if she were opening a door and inviting him inside. He saw glimpses of her life, her joys and sorrows, her deep connection to her people and their history. At the same time, he felt her experiencing him. His childhood on Earth, his fascination with the stars, and the sense of wonder he felt being here. It was intimate in a way he had never imagined, a connection that transcended words. When they broke contact, Eli staggered back, overwhelmed but exhilarated. That was incredible. Lyra steadied him, her expression soft. "You handled it well. Many find it too much at first." Jonas, watching from a distance, looked both intrigued and wary. "What did you see?" "Everything," Eli said simply, still trying to process the experience. "It's not just seeing, it's feeling, understanding. It's like nothing I've ever known." Threx approached, his eyes alight with curiosity. "This is why the Hall of Mirrors is so important. It reminds us of our shared experiences, our shared truths." As they left the chamber, the connection Eli had felt lingered. He looked at Lyra, and she met his gaze with a knowing smile. They didn't need words to express what had passed between them. The Hall of Mirrors had shown them not just the depths of alien history, but the possibilities of connection that went far beyond their physical forms. For Eli, it was a revelation that would change the course of his time on Crizum, and perhaps his life. Chapter 5. Cultural Depths. The morning light streamed through the translucent walls of Eli's quarters, painting soft patterns across the floor. Today, Lyra had promised to show them a facet of Zal culture rarely seen by outsiders, a sacred ritual that embodied the philosophical and emotional core of their civilization. Eli and Jonas were both eager, though for different reasons. Eli had grown increasingly curious about the Zal's spiritual practices and how they connected to their deep, almost symbiotic relationship with their planet. Jonas, on the other hand, saw the opportunity as a way to gather more data on the anthropological aspects of this unique species. As they walked through the settlement, Lyra explained the significance of the event. It is called the Unity Gathering. It is not religious in the sense humans often think of, but it is deeply spiritual. It is a time for us to connect, not just with each other, but with Crizum itself. What does that connection look like? Eli asked, his curiosity evident. It varies, Lyra replied. For some, it is a time of introspection. For others, it is a moment to share their inner truths with those they trust. You will understand better when you see it. Threx joined them as they reached the edge of the settlement. "Ah, you're in for a treat," he said, his tone light but his eyes serious. "The Unity Gathering is unlike anything you've experienced. Just keep an open mind." Jonas adjusted his pack, filled with recording equipment and notebooks. "Will we be allowed to take notes? Or is this a strictly observational experience?" Lyra glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "You may take notes, but discretion is expected. Some moments are not meant to be captured, only felt." The group arrived at a vast clearing surrounded by towering, glowing trees. In the center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed softly, emitting a faint hum. Dozens of Zal had already gathered, their movements deliberate and graceful. "What's the purpose of that structure?" Eli asked, pointing to the crystalline form. "It is called the Veilstone," Lyra said. "It amplifies the natural energy of Crizum, allowing us to align ourselves more closely with the planet's rhythms." The Zal began to form concentric circles around the Veilstone. Lyra and Threx gestured for Eli and Jonas to join them in the outermost ring. "Follow our lead," Threx whispered. "Let the energy guide you." The gathering began with a series of low, harmonic tones emanating from the Veilstone. The sound resonated through the clearing, vibrating in Eli's chest. The Zal moved in unison, their hands outstretched, their eyes closed. Eli hesitated but followed suit, imitating their movements. As the tones grew deeper, Eli felt a strange sensation, an almost magnetic pull toward the Veilstone. He glanced at Jonas, who looked skeptical but was also following the motions. "This is intense," Jonas murmured under his breath. Eli nodded, unable to articulate the mix of emotions coursing through him. It was as if the Veilstone were peeling back layers of his mind, exposing thoughts and feelings he had long buried. Lyra stepped closer, her voice barely audible above the hum. "Do not resist it, Eli. Let it show you what you need to see." Eli closed his eyes, surrendering to the experience. Images flooded his mind, memories of Earth, his childhood, his academic struggles, and his relentless drive to explore the unknown. Interwoven with these were flashes of Crizum, its vivid landscapes, the warmth of its people, and the connection he felt with Lyra. When the tones subsided, Eli opened his eyes to find Lyra watching him. "What did you feel?" she asked softly. "It's hard to put into words," Eli replied. "It was like being part of something larger than myself." Jonas, still processing his own experience, looked at Lyra. "How do you do this regularly?" "It's overwhelming." "It is not always easy," Lyra admitted. "But it is necessary. It reminds us of our place in the greater whole." After the gathering concluded, the group stayed to talk with some of the Zal participants. One elder, named Zevrin, shared his thoughts on the Veilstone. "It is not just a tool. It is a mirror, reflecting what we bring to it. If you approach with openness, it will reveal truths. If you resist, it will challenge you." Eli found himself deeply moved by Zevrin's words. He turned to Lyra as they walked back to the settlement. "Your culture has such a profound way of looking at the world. It's humbling." Lyra smiled. "And yet, it is your perspective that has illuminated parts of our own history. This exchange benefits us both." Jonas, finally breaking his silence, added, "It's clear your people have a balance we're still striving for. There's a lot we can learn from each other." As they reached their quarters, Eli felt a growing connection not just to the Zal, but to the world of Krizen itself. The Unity Gathering had shown him the depth of their culture and their unwavering bond with their planet. It was a lesson he would carry with him, one that deepened his understanding of what it truly meant to connect. Chapter 6. The Night of Lights. The evening was alive with anticipation as the entire settlement prepared for the Festival of Lights. Eli and Jonas had heard murmurs about the event for days, but neither fully understood its significance. All they knew was that it was one of the most celebrated traditions of the Zal, a moment when their culture came alive with sound, light, and shared experience. Lyra greeted them outside their quarters, her usually serene expression replaced with a rare excitement. "Tonight, you will witness something truly unique. The Festival of Lights is not just a celebration. It is a way for us to express the essence of who we are." Threx joined them moments later, holding a crystalline lantern that emitted a soft, pulsing glow. "Make sure you keep your senses open," he advised. "This isn't just a spectacle. It's interactive. The lights respond to emotion, to intention." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "The lights respond to emotion? How is that even possible?" "Our ancestors designed the crystals to resonate with the energy of living beings," Lyra explained. "It's a symbiosis. The more open you are, the more vibrant the experience will be." The group made their way to the central square, which had been transformed into a glowing, ethereal landscape. Crystals of every size and shape were arranged in intricate patterns, their colors shifting and dancing in harmony with the low hum of a melodic tune that seemed to emanate from the very air. Eli was mesmerized. "It's like the entire settlement has become an art installation." "It is," Lyra said, smiling. "Every Zal contributes their light, their intention to the festival. Tonight, we share our energy with each other and with Krizen." As they walked deeper into the square, Zal of all ages moved gracefully through the space, their hands outstretched to touch the crystals, causing bursts of color to ripple outward. Children ran through the patterns, leaving trails of shimmering light in their wake. Threx handed Eli a small crystal. "Here, try it." Eli took the crystal, its surface cool and smooth in his palm. "What do I do?" "Hold it. Focus on a memory or a feeling," Threx instructed. "The crystal will respond." Eli closed his eyes, thinking of Earth, not the sterile labs or academic conferences, but the warm evenings spent stargazing as a child. The memory filled him with a sense of wonder and nostalgia. When he opened his eyes, the crystal in his hand was glowing a deep, vibrant blue. Lyra watched with interest. "That color represents curiosity and connection. It suits you." Jonas, eager to try, took another crystal. "Let's see what mine does." After a moment of concentration, his crystal glowed a soft green, prompting laughter from Threx. "That's the color of analysis," Threx said, grinning. Fitting for someone who's always dissecting everything. Jonas chuckled. Well, at least it's accurate. As the evening progressed, the festival grew more dynamic. Zal formed spontaneous dances, their movements creating waves of color that merged and intertwined. The air buzzed with the collective energy of the gathering. Eli found himself drawn to a larger crystal at the center of the square. It towered above the others, its surface shimmering with an ever-changing spectrum of light. Lyra followed him, sensing his curiosity. "This is the Heartstone," she explained. "It amplifies the energy of the festival, bringing everyone's contributions together into one shared expression." Eli hesitated. "Can I interact with it?" "Of course," Lyra said, stepping closer. "But it's best if you don't do it alone. The Heartstone reflects the connection between individuals. Would you like me to join you?" Eli nodded, and they placed their hands on the crystal simultaneously. A surge of warmth spread through his body as the Heartstone began to glow with a brilliant cascade of colors. Images flashed in his mind, memories of his time on Crizum, the discoveries, the challenges, and the growing bond he felt with Lyra. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts, soft but steady. "Do you see it, Eli? How our intentions, our feelings, become part of something larger?" He looked at her, his heart pounding. "I do. It's overwhelming, but incredible." The Heartstone pulsed brightly, its colors shifting to a radiant gold before fading back to its original shimmer. Around them, the Zal clapped and cheered, their voices rising in harmonious celebration. Jonas approached, clearly moved. "That was something else. You two lit up the whole square." Eli smiled, a mixture of awe and humility in his expression. "It wasn't just us. It was everyone." As the festival wound down, the participants gathered in smaller groups to share stories and reflections. Lyra, Threx, Eli, and Jonas found themselves sitting beneath a glowing tree, the faint hum of the crystals still resonating around them. "I think I understand now," Eli said, his voice thoughtful. "This isn't just about light or celebration. It's about connection, between people, the planet, and something beyond all of us." Lyra nodded. "That's the heart of it. The lights are a mirror, showing us what we often overlook in our daily lives." Jonas leaned back, his usual analytical demeanor softened. "It's a beautiful way to live. I envy it." As they sat there, the quiet joy of the festival lingering in the air, Eli realized that his time on Crizum was shaping him in ways he hadn't anticipated. The Festival of Lights had shown him not only the depth of Zal culture, but also the potential for understanding and growth within himself. That night, as the glowing trees cast gentle patterns on the ground, Eli felt a sense of belonging he hadn't known in years. Crizum was no longer just a planet to study. It was becoming a part of him. Chapter 7. The Crisis. Eli and Jonas were in the middle of analyzing samples from the ruins when Lyra burst into their lab, her usual calm demeanor replaced with visible tension. Threx followed closely, his face unusually grim. "Something's happened," Lyra said, her voice steady but urgent. "A communications satellite has detected an anomaly in the planet's energy fields. It's unlike anything we've encountered before." Jonas looked up from his work, frowning. "Anomaly? Could it be natural?" Threx shook his head. "We don't believe so. The patterns are too regular, too deliberate. It's as if something, or someone, is trying to disrupt the planetary systems." Eli stood, setting his tools aside. "What can we do to help?" Lyra's eyes met his, her tension easing slightly at his offer. "We need to investigate the source. It's coming from deep within one of the restricted zones of the ruins. You and Jonas have studied the layout extensively. Your insights might be crucial." Jonas hesitated, glancing at Eli. Restricted zones? Are we even allowed to go there? There's no time for formalities, Lyra said firmly. If we don't act quickly, the disruption could destabilize the Veil Stone and other key structures. Eli nodded. Then let's go. The team hurried through the settlement, gathering equipment and additional Zal researchers to assist. They arrived at the outskirts of the restricted zone, where the ruins loomed larger and more imposing than any they had explored before. The air felt heavier here, charged with a strange energy. Threx led the way, his knowledge of the ruins invaluable. "The readings are strongest near the central chamber," he said, consulting a handheld device that displayed shifting energy patterns. "But be cautious. The pathways are unstable." As they moved deeper into the ruins, the group encountered strange phenomena. Walls shimmered as if alive, faint whispers echoed through the corridors, and the air grew colder. Jonas, uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. "This place feels different, like it's alive." "It might be," Lyra said, her tone contemplative. The ancient Zal believed that certain parts of the ruins were imbued with the planet's consciousness. If the anomaly is interfering with that, we could be in danger. Eli stepped carefully, his flashlight illuminating symbols etched into the walls. "These patterns, have you seen them before?" Lyra stopped to examine the symbols. "No, they're not in any of our records. It's as if they've only appeared recently." Jonas crouched to take a closer look. Could the anomaly be triggering some kind of activation in the ruins? "It's possible," Threx said. "But whether that's a defense mechanism or something more dangerous, we don't know." The group pressed on, the tension thick in the air. As they approached the central chamber, the energy readings spiked. The walls pulsed faintly, and a low hum reverberated through the structure. "This is it," Threx said, stopping in front of a massive, intricately carved door. "The source is just beyond here." Lyra placed her hand on the door, which responded with a faint glow. "It's locked. The mechanisms are ancient, but they should respond to the right frequency." Jonas pulled out a portable scanner. "Let me try to calibrate it. If we match the energy signature, we might be able to open it." While Jonas worked, Eli turned to Lyra. "If this is as dangerous as it seems, why haven't the Zal explored it before now?" "Fear," Lyra admitted. "These zones are considered sacred and dangerous. Few have dared to venture this far." Eli nodded, his respect for the Zal's caution deepening. "We'll be careful." After several tense minutes, the door began to shift, sliding open with a low rumble. The group stepped inside to find a cavernous chamber filled with intricate machinery, its design far more advanced than anything they had seen in the ruins before. At the center of the room was a glowing sphere, its light pulsing in erratic patterns. The air around it seemed to ripple, distorting the space. "That's the source," Threx said, his voice low. "It's unlike anything we've encountered." Jonas approached cautiously, scanning the sphere. "The readings are off the charts. This thing is putting out energy on multiple frequencies, some of which we can't even measure." Lyra studied the sphere, her expression a mix of awe and concern. If this continues, it could overload the Veil Stone and destabilize the entire settlement. Eli stepped forward. "Is there a way to shut it down?" "There might be," Threx said, pointing to a console nearby. "But it would require interfacing with the system, and we don't fully understand it." "I'll do it," Eli said without hesitation. "I've studied enough of the ruins to recognize some of the patterns. If we can decipher the interface, we might be able to neutralize the sphere." Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Be careful, Eli. If the system reacts poorly, it could be dangerous." "I'll be fine," he said, offering her a reassuring smile. Eli approached the console, his fingers tracing the glowing symbols. He began inputting commands, his mind racing to interpret the ancient language. The sphere pulsed more erratically as he worked, and the chamber seemed to vibrate with increasing intensity. "Eli, hurry!" Jonas called out. "The energy levels are spiking." "I'm almost there," Eli replied, his voice steady despite the pressure. With a final input, the sphere's light dimmed, and the vibrations ceased. The room fell silent. Eli exhaled deeply, stepping back from the console. "It's done." The group stood in stunned silence, the weight of what they had just experienced sinking in. Lyra broke the silence, her voice filled with quiet gratitude. "You may have just saved Crizin, Eli." Eli looked at her, his expression serious. "We all did. This was a team effort." As they made their way back to the settlement, the tension began to fade, replaced by a sense of relief. The crisis had been averted, but the mysteries of the ruins, and the connection between the Zal and their planet, remained. Eli couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far greater than any of them could have anticipated. Chapter 8. The Illumination. The aftermath of the crisis left Eli and Jonas with little time to reflect. Back in the settlement, the Zal gathered in solemn silence, awaiting word from their council about the strange anomaly in the ruins. Eli and Jonas joined Lyra and Threx in the main hall, where discussions had been ongoing for hours. Eli leaned against a smooth, glowing column, his mind still reeling from their encounter with the strange sphere. "Do we know what that thing was? Or who could have created it?" Threx shook his head. "No definitive answers yet, but we suspect it was a remnant of the ancient Zal's experiments. The energy readings suggest it was some kind of power source, possibly even a gateway." "A gateway to where?" Jonas asked, his voice betraying both curiosity and unease. "That's the question," Lyra said, sitting beside Eli. "It could have been meant to connect to other parts of the galaxy, or something beyond even our understanding." Eli rubbed his temples, trying to piece together the fragments of what they had experienced. If the sphere was a gateway, then it might explain why the ruins feel alive. Maybe it wasn't just about energy, but interaction with other dimensions or consciousness. The room fell quiet as they considered the implications. After a moment, Lyra stood, addressing the group. "Regardless of its purpose, we must decide what to do next. The Council wants to seal off the restricted zones entirely. They fear another incident." Jonas frowned. "Seal it off. But there's so much we haven't explored, so much we could learn." Threx nodded in agreement. "Cutting ourselves off from the past won't solve anything. If anything, it will leave us vulnerable to other unknowns." Lyra looked to Eli. "What do you think?" Eli hesitated, feeling the weight of her question. "I think understanding the past is the only way forward. Sealing off the ruins might provide temporary safety, but it won't address the bigger picture." The Council's representative, a composed elder named Zevrin, entered the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Your actions have saved the settlement," he said, looking at Eli. "But your insight is correct. We cannot move forward by retreating into fear." Lyra stepped forward. "What do you propose, Zevrin?" "We will monitor the restricted zones," Zevrin said. "But we will also authorize further exploration under controlled conditions. Eli, Jonas, and Threx, your contributions have been invaluable. If you're willing, we would like you to continue your research." Jonas nodded immediately. "Absolutely. There's no way I'm leaving now." Threx grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." Eli, however, felt a flicker of doubt. He glanced at Lyra. "Are you sure this is the right path? The ruins aren't just archaeological sites. They're dangerous." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Nothing worth understanding comes without risk, Eli. You've shown courage and insight. We need that now more than ever." Her words resonated deeply with him. He took a breath and nodded. "All right. Let's do this." Over the following weeks, the team worked tirelessly to uncover more about the ancient Zal's technology. Lyra and Eli grew even closer, their partnership blending professional respect with an undeniable personal connection. They often spent evenings reviewing their findings under Krizen's twin moons, their conversations drifting from academic theories to more personal topics. One evening, as they sat in the glowing gardens, Eli turned to Lyra. "Do you ever wonder what your ancestors were searching for? Why they created all of this?" "Every day," Lyra admitted. "The more we uncover, the more I feel their presence, like echoes in the walls. They weren't just looking for answers. They were reaching for something greater." Eli nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I think humanity has always done the same, reaching for the stars, hoping to find something, or someone, on the other side." Lyra smiled, her expression softening. "And now, here we are, connecting across the vastness of space. Perhaps that's what they wanted, to remind us that we're not alone." Their conversation was interrupted by Jonas, who approached holding a glowing tablet. "You two might want to see this," he said, excitement evident in his voice. Eli and Lyra followed Jonas to the lab, where Threx was already poring over new data. "What's going on?" Eli asked. "We found something in the deeper layers of the ruins," Threx said, pointing to a holographic projection of the sphere's energy readings. "It's a pattern, a map, almost. It seems to point to another structure, far from the settlement." Jonas leaned over the table. "If this is accurate, there could be an even larger site, possibly the origin of the anomaly." Eli exchanged a look with Lyra. "Are we ready for that? We've barely scratched the surface of what we've already found." "We don't have to decide now," Lyra said. "But this discovery changes everything. It's a new chapter, not just for us, but for Krizen." Zevran entered the lab, having been informed of the discovery. "This is significant," he said, "but we must proceed with caution. Whatever lies ahead, it will require collaboration and trust." Eli nodded. "We'll approach it carefully. This isn't just about discovery. It's about understanding what we're a part of." That night, as Eli lay in his quarters, he reflected on everything that had happened since arriving on Krizen. The ruins, the Zal, the connections he had formed, all of it felt like pieces of a puzzle that was still coming together. The phrase Lyra had once said echoed in his mind, "a human's light in the depths of alien night." He understood it now, not just as a poetic sentiment, but as a truth about their shared journey. For the first time in years, Eli felt a sense of clarity and purpose. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was one he was ready to walk, hand in hand with those who shared his vision. Together, they would continue to uncover the mysteries of Krizen and, perhaps, themselves.